Yo, what's up? I'm back for a mini break. Sorry I took so long. I enjoyed my time playing this episode's game, Fear and Hunger. And also playing Spider-Man 2 Lots of P for that OG and Risk of Rain Returns. But the focus of this video is on Fear and Hunger, and that's the game I played while I was on my break. Fear and Hunger is a game that I actually had written down in 2022. I actually made this entire wheel in 2022. During that time, I think that this game was still niche. But apparently this year, it took off in popularity. And apparently that's thanks to a video from some guy named Super Eyepatch Wolf, which, I'm not gonna lie, I never heard of before. Either way, this video released the 6th of May and holy fucking shit, it got a lot of views. Now it's being viewed as the game that put RPGmaker games back into the spotlight, which I actually disagree with, since I think that this game has been able to fully shed its tag of it being an RPGmaker game. And with it shedding that tag, nobody focuses on it in that way. Either way, this game is fucking massive now, with a lot of people wanting a piece of its pie. Hell, fucking Only Places playing through it, and that's a pretty big name. And now that everybody has its attention on it, is it overhyped? Or is it actually good? Is Fear and Hunger worth the hype? I had to say it, I'm sorry, I can't let the low-hanging fruit get away from me. I was originally thinking of playing through both Fear and Hunger 1 and 2, but after playing through 5 Finals of Fuckboys games, I'm really tired of hard games. Forgive me for this, but I'll put Termin on my wheel and play it when I reach it then. This game has a lot of stuff we could talk about, and I think I want to set up my video like this. Video segments in the description so you can know when it starts and ends. Also, this video isn't going to be a really big deep dive into this game. I'm going to focus on its mechanics as a game, since there's a lot of interesting stuff to talk about in a gameplay sense. But I'm not gonna end up giving you a huge deep dive of the world or dissect this piece by piece. A lot of other videos, which are way better than mine, have been made getting into every detail of this. Check those out instead. I can't really give you any personal recommendations, but I'm sure you'll find one that works for you. Fear and Hunger released on December 11th, 2018, and it was released on RPGmaker MV. I mentioned this because I want to go a bit of a tangent about this engine. This is something that I at some point had to cover, since it's going to be important for the entire series. In my personal opinion, the best current engine anyone can try and make a game on is this one. The one that in the past has been used the most and is still being used a lot is RPGmaker VX8, which has had a lot of good games coming out of it and a lot of classics. But nowadays it is very limited, and I personally feel like it's just outdated. Especially with how easy it is to burn yourself out with its formatting, and how the only way to make something really outstanding is using an insane amount of scripts, which sometimes can just not work. Old engines have had games that went beyond these limits. But to do this, it took an insane amount of tweaking, basically making the actual engine unrecognizable to better the intended vision of the game. For example with Standstill Girl, a game which I really liked due to how unique it was, but I'm not surprised it was in development hell, since this amount of tweaking would have taken an insane amount of effort. I believe that MV is way better due to it providing more liberty in making the feel of the game more unique, alongside with it being more recent, therefore being less limiting in some aspects. Also might help is that the way the scripts work have been improved, and more importantly, plugins have gotten easier support. There have been a lot of games on this engine, but I believe that currently most of the games on this engine aren't fully taking advantage of it. Not to say that they aren't taking advantage of it at all. I mean to say that a lot more can be done with this engine. Most of the big games on this engine are ports of games from an older engine. An example of that are the Finals of Fuckboys games that I covered last video. You can see the improvements in the UI for example, but they could have done more. Which is how MV is a better example of a port taking more use of it. The game feels way more vibrant and it really expands on the game's unique style. That said, it is still based off a game that had to work around a lot of limits on its original engine. So in terms of gameplay, not really a lot changes. So in the end, the engine has a lot of possibilities that a lot of games didn't particularly take advantage of. Fear and Hunger is a game that takes the MV engine to its limit. That is because the base game is based off this engine, and from there it expands on its ideas using plugins available for it. This is a game I am proud to say should be the poster child of this engine. And I am happy to see how at this point it went beyond that, since I do believe sincerely that it deserves it. All of the assets in this game, aside from animations, were made by one guy with the help of a handful of plugins, which were way less than I would have expected for a game with this quality, and also with the help from some stuff from the actual engine of course. The assets used in this game are insane, from the music to the art style. The art style and music is extremely unique and it shows its dark nature immediately. A good preview of the dread in this world, and it works perfectly. It looks great both as sprites, character arts and CGs, and some of the songs are really tense for battles. Genuinely impressive work, especially with how well it fits. That said, I don't think there are any songs particularly which I would listen to on a playlist. But that's not necessary at all, since it's just to enhance the experience of this game. The assets used in this game fit really well with this game being more mature than other games on my wheel. Except for 2 specific games on my wheel which are just flat out for adults. The reason why this game has the mature tag is because, holy shit, look at that guy's oh boy, we're in the gameplay segment. This is the part where I wanted to talk for a long time. Let's start with the difficulty, shall we? I am absolutely fucking lucky that I got this game right after Finance of Fuckboys. Finance of Fuckboys has Unfairly Difficult as its headliner, and like I said before, I believe that this title is underserved. It is hard, but not unfair. And in comparison to this motherfucker, it feels like I played Cooking Mama. This is a game deserving of the title Unfairly Difficult, with all of the mechanics that are designed to just fuck you over. The most popular one, and one which most people know of, is the coin flip. What is the coin flip? What are you, fucking stupid? It's a coin flip. There are a lot of actions in this game depending on flipping a coin. Call heads or tails, and the outcome depends on what you choose. You'll see this with minor stuff like looting a chest or dodging a big attack, but there is one which is extremely brutal in my opinion. Coin flip for saving. The way to save in this game is by sleeping in beds which are in specific spots. But for you to actually sleep in them, you have to flip a coin. If you call the coin flip wrong, you can either get swamped by an enemy instead of saving, or the game just forces you to be able to save in that spot. I think that this is fucking brutal because this can easily destroy any progress you've made. Spent an hour in the dungeon and now you finally found the bed and have the time to save. Oopsie, here's a guard and you missed cutting his arm. Now both your limbs are gone. Dumbass. That's what you get for even suggesting to save. And with just only that feature, I'm willing to say that it's already harder than Finance of Fuckboys. But let's not downplay the difficulty of this game, shall we? Because this game is out to fuck you in the ass. Literally, there are so many mechanics implemented that are just all there to make your life more miserable. Some of the more important ones are status effects like infections and bleedings. Real quick explanation. Either your leg or arm can get infected. Only way to cure it is using green herbs which are extremely rare, or cutting off a limb. When you cut off a limb, you can't use it. Lose both of your arms, you can no longer use weapons. Lose both of your legs, you're crawling on the floor. The other status effect is bleeding, which can be applied through numerous ways, like combat, or by simply getting unlucky. This one is easier to deal with, but I still want to lay down the groundwork for the absolute barrage of things that can happen. These mechanics want you dead. From accidentally stepping on a nail causing you to get infected, the floor randomly caving in, staying still for too long at the start causing dogs to maul you to death, choosing the wrong dialogue option causing your death, walking past an enemy that blows your limbs off causing a cave-in, failing the RNG check for instant death move, failing the RNG check for a heavy blow, failing the RNG check for breathing, being infected long causing your death, losing all your limbs, becoming a cripple, stopping your breathing, falling to a toilet where you have to take your own life, falling to the abyss, and the most important ones, starvation and sanity loss. There are way more fucking ways you can die in this game, but these are just a handful which I experienced in my playthrough. In summary, this game is hard, and it's intentionally hard because it fucking hates you. Die. Despite the huge amount of quirks and mechanics in this game, the actual gameplay of the game can be boiled down to something pretty simple. Traversing the dungeon, going deeper and deeper, finding ways to continue your path, and fighting horrendous enemies. And, of course, this journey will be very hard due to the difficulty. The best way to continue your journey is by scavenging for anything that can make it easier, like food, healing items, armor, weapons, new party members, and even books that grant you spells and new skills. Loot varies from useless to I win. For example, this cool little book that just teleports you to the endgame, which can both be a blessing and a curse. So that is basically the basic of the gameplay. There are a lot of mechanics attached to it. The gameplay is really well thought out and in depth. Exploring dungeon feels really unique due to the game always being randomly generated, from loot to levels. Or at least I can confirm that for 5 levels in the dungeons they were differently generated. And the game has a fuck ton of endings. So, alongside every run being practically unique, the amount of endings, alongside with the difference in party members you can have, the difference in playable character you can have, and also the choices of side quest and little quests you want to follow, there is a huge amount of replay value, and focusing on this game, just in the gameplay aspect, it is fucking massive. Which I would even personally compare to high quality non-indie RPGs. I really can't express enough how impressed I am with the gameplay in this game, even if I got extremely fucking mad with the RNG bullshit. I think that this gameplay is fucking great. And it really scratched a niche I didn't even know I had. Last thing I can really mention about the gameplay is the combat. And I will give a very big detailed explanation of it. So if you already know, just fucking skip this part honestly. The combat of this, I would like to argue, is a basic turn-based one, but with a very big twist and unique focus. It may have the base RPGmaker UI, but the actual focus of the game differentiates from others. So honestly, I could say that this isn't the basic RPGmaker combat, which, how many chances have I had to say that? The combat is focused on a mutilation system. Or whatever it's called, I don't really know what the name for it is. Almost every fight in this game is against a big enemy where you can target multiple parts of the bodies. For example, look at the size! You can target their arms, legs, and other weak spots. If the battle isn't focused on one big enemy, then most of the time it will be just multiple small ones where you target their body as one whole thing. This mutilation system does have an actual importance. All enemies are unique when it comes to this system. But for now, let's focus on one enemy to explain the system. The easy example I can show is with the most common enemy, the prison guard. The prison guard consists of 7 parts. left arm, left leg, stinger, right leg, torso, and head. All parts of the body are unique, with their own health, attacks, and evasion rates. For example, the head. The head of most enemies are the weakest spot. If you can get rid of them, they die. Same goes for the guard here. The way the developers used to avoid abusing it is by making the chance of hitting the head really low. In this case, the head has a 55% chance to avoid any melee hits and a 40% chance to avoid any magic hits. So, you can either try to RNG to hit it, which I don't recommend, or you can actually strategize. For the guard here, if you get rid of both of his legs, it will stagger him, making the evasion of the head become equal as the rest of the body parts. So the strategy would be focus the legs first to get rid of the head, which will take multiple turns, since even if you get rid of both legs in one turn, it takes an actual turn to process the stagger. The problem with focusing the legs is that the enemy is still able to attack with the other parts of its body. In the case of the guard, it's left arm, right arm, and stinger. The guard's left arm is the most dangerous. This comes to it attacking every turn and it being able to easily mutilate one of your limbs. The way you can get rid of its body parts, he can with you. So the safest way to beat it is killing its left arm than its legs, right? You fucking idiot, you're forgetting its stinger and right arm. The guard is one of the only enemies that has a delayed attack with its right arm. Every 3 turns, starting on the second turn, it will do a big attack which you have to either guard or flip a coin to dodge. If it hits you, it can easily do 80% of your total HP or just flat out kill you. And the stinger has a random chance of attacking which will also do a lot of damage. And if you get rid of both its arm and its stinger, it will start using its body to try and tackle you, which will also do a bit of damage. So with all that in mind, the game forces you to pick a specific strategy, to either optimize killing it as fast as possible, or to optimize killing it without taking a lot of damage. And that will be the case with every enemy. They all have a specific safe strategy, which you will have to find out through trial and error, or look it up like a fucking cheater. This is a really good idea, since it makes the gameplay feel more in-depth due to the varying strategies that all the enemies have, and also forces you to have more thought put into the gameplay. You can't just mindlessly bash buttons or you're gonna get fucked, unless you can do enough damage to kill the body in one hit. Downside to it is that it will take time to figure it out, and the chances that something fails while executing it are pretty high. And also, it takes a while to execute. So if you can get it in one hit, try and go for that. Otherwise, I would recommend to play it safe. And of course, this system is more in depth than what I explained here, which aside from my explanation, I feel like is expanded on even more, with characters having specific skills, spells, and even some specific actions making the fight easier. But I already spilled my guts with the combat. This is a really unique and intriguing system, which at some points feels like bullshit when something goes wrong in your strategy, but it is still extremely initiative and fun. That is the gameplay out of the way. Sorry it took so long, but I just want to get across how fucking amazing I think the gameplay is, since gameplay and story for me are the most important parts of a game. Now finally we get to the last part, story. This is one that I actually want to try and keep short. The actual main plot of this game is actually really simple. Your goal is to find a man named Lagarde, which is a French name so I refuse to pronounce it correctly, who is basically Griffith. You have to find him in this dungeon. Your reason for why you need to find him varies from character to character. It can be wanting to collect the bounty on his head, wanting to save him, wanting to see how it will impact the world, or wanting to get revenge on him. Later on in the game, your goal will change depending on what ending you want. This may be an unpopular opinion, but I don't really like the way that it's handled. The endings vary a lot from the requirements, and I think it is actually really hard to find out what you can do. I can't really think of a way the player is able to find out how to get what ending without having to look it up online. And due to the requirements varying a lot, unless you have prior outside knowledge of the endings, you are more than likely getting forced into one ending. And for what I played, it's not very clear inside the game how to get the endings. I understand the special endings having really specific and obscure requirements, but for the endings which you're supposed to get with any playable characters, I would have liked a clearer way to find out how to get it. Most of the requirements for the endings will be collecting the 4 main souls, but from there, knowing what to do, with how open the game is after you get these souls, makes finding out a big time sink of trial and error, and you may never find out with some of the requirements being dependent on a decently early game. But I also understand that this sense of mystery is supposed to be in the nature and world of the game. Still, I feel like it may have been better to have a clearer path set out for the endings that you can find in-game, since there comes a big fear of investigating due to the unforgiving nature of the game. You could get fucked up by anything at any moment, and maybe can take place just as you are about to discover a requirement. That's the end of my biggest complaint with the story. I feel like it played a bit too much into the obscurity of its world, to the point where outside help does feel necessary to actually beat the game. Like I mentioned earlier, the main plot is actually pretty simple. That is mostly because the biggest focus on the writing in this game is environmental storytelling, which in my opinion is a pretty big gamble. If your world or environment isn't interesting or is too shallow, it isn't a good thing to focus on. Thank God that we don't have to worry about that here, because holy shit! This game has a lot to say about its world building. and it seeps through every single bit of the environment. Even without ever touching a lore book or just ignoring all character text, just by looking at the environment of the dungeon, you can take in a lot of the world. This game's world has its own kingdoms, regions, dialects, gods, history, mythical creatures, and so much more. The world it offers is generally fucking impressive. It's one of the few games that I think do environmental storytelling really fucking well. Reason why people call this the Dark Souls of RPGmaker games. FromSoft is the first name most people think of when it comes to environmental storytelling, and this is a game that can actually compare in quality. Aside from that, I won't go deep into the story. I feel like I'm able to express my thoughts clearly enough with that info. I like how the backstory of the characters also add both to the story and gameplay, with it being of a sort of D&D-ish character creator, where your choices impact your character's gear and skills. I am shocked with the world it has built, but I personally would have liked a bit more of an expanded main plot, since I do think it works pretty well, but I would have liked a bit more to be offered, by having characters play a bigger role aside from your main playable character and Lagarde. And I want to end my discussion on the story there and not really give that deep into a dive into the lore, since I feel like people have done it way better than I ever could. Or even better yet, play it for yourself, find out the story yourself, piece it together yourself, and don't get spoon-fed by other people. Give the game some love, please play it. But it's your choice in the end. I'm not gonna go deeper into it, especially for this game, since people have already done that. I don't know, to close off this section, watch me get S ending for Dars. Hard mode fucking sucks! Fear Hunger is a game that not only has been able to catch a lot of mainstream attention, but has also been able to completely differentiate itself from RPG games. Even as a product that does cost money, it is one of, if not, the best RPG game currently for the MV engine. Or well, that's what I currently think, because I haven't played Terminal yet. Fear Hunger is a really high quality product, and it seeps with a lot of quality. The only aspects I think it lacks a bit is an actual main plot, and a bit of an explanation on how to help the player get some endings. Aside from that, this game is great. Assets are great, graphics are great. That's basically the same thing, sorry. Gameplay is great. When people do say that it has put RPGmaker back into the spotlight, I can see why. But I still personally believe that this game has gone past it being called an RPGmaker game. This is a game that just happens to be on RPGmaker MV. And due to it being a really high quality game, I am putting it at the #1 spot. We will see if it gets overtaken later. But anyhow, on to the next game.
And like always, no sound. Sad. Ooh. Oh, that's a pretty good pick. That's a pick I'm pretty happy about. Alright. Well, let's get into it.